Hi, what's up everybody? I'm Edward, and in today's video, I'll be doing a follow-up to my first impressions video with my 5 months usage experience with the ROG Phone 5. And share with you guys today the features that stood out to me the most, including what completely changed my perspective on gaming phones. And if you want to know more about the design and the specifications of the phone, you can find the link to part 1 of the video in the description below. So, if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated, and let's marvel at the details. Before I decided to buy the ROG Phone 5, I couldn't help my skepticism regarding dedicated gaming phones. After all, since these devices use the same system and processors as there are other best Android phones out there, what advantages could they possibly offer over a regular handset? A few years back, I tried playing a few games on the ROG Phone 2, but it gave me no real incentive to switch over from my iPhone 8 other than a bigger and nicer screen. And when Apple announced the iPhone X with its new OLED screen, gaming phones didn't even appear in my thought. But the funny thing is, for the past 5 months, I've basically ditched my iPhone XS for mobile gaming ever since the ROG Phone 5 arrived at my doorstep. There are a couple of reasons why, but if I am to sum them all up in one short sentence, it's just so much more fun and immersive and a way better experience to play mobile games on the ROG Phone 5 than on a non-gaming phone. So, aside from the pure power this gaming phone delivers, there are a ton of features offered by gaming phones in general that non-gaming phones don't. With the ROG Phone 5, there are 6 features that stood out to me the most, and I'll start with the most noticeable improvement in my mobile gaming experience, which is the screen's touch sampling rate, or in other words, touch responsiveness. Coming from an iPhone's and the Galaxy S8 Plus's 120Hz sampling rate, 300Hz feels unbelievably accurate and fast. I immediately noticed this after loading up my first match of Call of Duty Mobile on the ROG Phone 5, where I was finally able to aim my gun and score kills more accurately. Before I played this game on the ROG Phone 5, I seriously thought I was terrible at touch-based first-person shooters. If only I knew that an extra 180Hz of touch sampling would make such a big difference in getting a smooth and responsive touch input, I would have bought a gaming phone just for mobile gaming a few years back, and not have my rear handed to me in so many competitive games. I don't know if I'm being delusional, but sometimes I seriously feel like I have the upper hand against players with slower phones. And talking about having the upper hand, the newly improved air triggers are the second feature that I love about this phone. It's like having an unfair advantage of using a controller with extra inputs, but without being matched with other controller players in some competitive games. The extra 2 buttons, or 4 if I split the 2 touch zones into 2 on each side, seriously makes performing in-game actions in competitive matches much more faster and easier. The air triggers are very responsive, and their sensitivity and actuation method can be customized and fine-tuned to your liking. And if I needed more buttons, I can add 2 more by attaching the AeroActive cooler, giving me a total of 6 buttons. And talking about customizing and fine-tuning things, this brings me to my third feature: the availability and ease of software customizing options on the ROG Phone. Starting with the in-game Game Genie overlay, the software gives me a quick access to a variety of gaming experience enhancing settings, such as temporarily disabling calls and notifications, invert colors for visual assist, enable on-screen crosshair, and quickly remap air triggers on the fly, just to name a few. And it doesn't stop there, because there's also an Armory Crate app from Asus that comes with the phone to let me tweak the performance of the phone and/or set up different profiles and macros for each different game I play. And I find that this has been especially helpful because I can set different touch sensitivity for each game I play, and also lower CPU and GPU clock speeds and screen refresh rates for casual and less resource demanding games to conserve battery when on the go. So that's something that is not readily available on non-gaming phones. The fourth feature is the pair of the front-firing MIMO speakers on this device. Not only can they get really loud, but they can do so while still sounding good without any distortion at high volumes. The stereo separation is also really good, making it easy to distinguish between left and right channels in games, and also has a slightly larger soundstage compared to every other phone I have ever used. ASUS has worked with experts at DIRAC to optimize the output of these speakers so no matter if you're watching a movie,
hey kid, a little young for a bartender, aren't you? A little old for prom, aren't you?
listening to music, or playing a game, it all sounds clear and great. And of course, if you like to fine-tune the audio, there is a built-in equalizer app just for that. So I know I might be repeating myself, but it is seriously one of the best sounding speakers on a smartphone that I have ever heard. The fifth and my most appreciated feature in this gaming phone is the bypass charging feature. And I have to say that never have I ever been more happy of a feature on a smartphone before. There's two reasons to that. First, I no longer have to worry about the battery wear because I can bypass the battery and power the ROG Phone 5 directly with a charger or a power bank. And as the battery will not be put under constant load during extended gaming sessions, it will last longer and can also save a lot of money on the cost of replacing them. Secondly, if I wanted to game for extended periods of time, I can now do so without worrying about the phone thermal throttling and causing my game to stutter at critical moments due to the extra heat generated by the battery from charging and gaming at the same time. So thanks to this feature, I can now plug in my phone whenever I'm low on battery without needing to stop my gaming session. Because as long as the game is open, the phone will either pause charging or use steady charging to keep the heat low so it will not impact gameplay. And talking about game stuttering and temperatures, this brings me to my sixth favorite feature that differentiates gaming phones from non-gaming phones, which is the cooling design of the ROG Phone 5 when under extended load. I personally think ASUS has done a really good job here, as Qualcomm's 888 Snapdragon processor is known for running quite hot under load. And no matter how much load and how hot the phone got while gaming, this phone has not once throttled and caused my game to stutter during the past 5 months. For instance, with X mode enabled, which is one of the profiles in the Armory Crate app, and Call of Duty mobile graphics settings maxed out, on-screen recording running, the phone's temperature would go into the low 50s, which makes the aluminum sides feel really warm in my hands. But the game would still run stutter-free while I struggle to survive in battleground mode. The same could be said for Genshin Impact and PUBG. Absolutely no stutter thanks to the effective vapor chamber cooling inside the phone. And if in the future an even more demanding game is released, you can simply attach the AeroActive cooler, which will enable the X Mode Plus profile, which is kind of like an overclocked profile to push the phone to its limits, so you can power through whatever game developers throw at us without overheating. Alright, since I'm on the topic of temps, about whether or not to get the AeroActive cooler, at this moment, I would say it's purely optional. In my test, the cooler does work by reducing temperatures on average by 4 to 5 degrees Celsius, but isn't enough to bring the temperatures of the aluminum chassis down, as it's basically a heatsink. Running a few wildlife stress tests, benchmark tests in 3D Mark, the results show that with the AeroActive cooler attached, the phone was able to maintain a slightly higher average frames per second while keeping temps at 3 degrees lower under sustained load. But what I liked about it wasn't the extra FPS or lower temperatures, but instead that it adds 2 more buttons which can be programmed to press any part of the screen, like the air triggers as previously mentioned. But because I didn't want to bring around a cooler, I usually just leave it at home and only bring it around if I know I'll be doing some extended and serious gaming sessions outdoor, or when I need it as a kickstand to prop up the phone. Now, as for the other features of the ROG Phone 5, as they don't really provide any obvious benefits or advantages when gaming over non-gaming phones, they're more of the nice to have features. For instance, the larger size screen with 144 refresh rate is a nice feature to have that complements the already beautiful display. But as not many mobile games currently really support 144Hz at this moment, it will only really provide a real competitive advantage in games that do. But with the 120Hz screen becoming more and more common, especially with the launch of iPhone 13 Pros, I'm guessing it's only a matter of time before more games will support 60+ refresh rates. Meantime, it will only make navigating the home screen and browsing web pages satisfyingly smooth. And this is the same case with the 16GB of LDDR5 memory. As most phones out there do not have more than 8GB of memory, having the extra memory will not improve your gaming experience much. As most games and apps are designed for the majority of phones' memory configuration in the market right now, it will not yet be able to take advantage of the extra memory on the ROG Phone 5. But at least it will be there when the market is ready for it. As for the Dualband Wi-Fi and Hyperfusion features, both are nice to have and on paper sounds really cool. But as I really can't see or feel any difference or major improvement in latency, I didn't remark it as one of my favorites. Plus, I find that the Hyperfusion features love to use my mobile data connection more than my Wi-Fi connection, so that might be a problem if you don't have unlimited mobile data plan. The return of the headphone jack is also a feature that is welcomed by many who needs lagless audio. But as I mainly use the Razer Barracuda X, I do not really need this port that much. Oh, by the way, don't forget to stay subscribed so you won't miss out when I upload the review for this wireless headset. But anyway, if you do use a wired headphone, the quality of the DAC in the ROG Phone 5 is top notch and also supports Dolby DTS. Moving on to the camera, the ROG Phone 5 uses a 64MP Sony IMX686 sensor and in my opinion can take pretty decent photos and videos up to 4K resolution. They are not the best compared to other flagship Android phones, but they are perfectly fine for taking everyday photos and video and do not fall behind when taking in well-lit photos. But as this phone is designed mainly for gaming, I won't be placing too much emphasis here as it's better to have a camera than none. And as for the Behemoth 6000 mAh battery, I was able to use the phone to answer a few short calls, send some IMs, check some emails, browse a few web pages, play some games during break time, and the battery will easily last into the next morning. And if in the rare case that I do have a lot of free time during the day to game continuously for a few hours, the battery was still able to last until I got home at night. So to give you an idea, gaming with max settings and display set to 144Hz refresh rate, the phone lasted around 5.5 hours before hitting 1% of battery left. Turning the refresh rate down to 120Hz, I was able to get a little over 6 hours. And at 60Hz, oh my god, the phone lasted a whole day of gaming at around 10.5 hours. So that is seriously a lot of gaming time there. And because of its dual battery design, charging the phone up to 90% from 20% with the included 65 watts charger only took around 30 minutes. So you don't have to worry about being tethered to a socket for too long. And to top that off, with the built-in battery care options, the phone's battery lifespan should easily last for quite a while. Alright, up until now, I've only mentioned about what I loved about the ROG Phone 5 because I barely didn't have anything I don't like about this phone. The only 3 things I wish could be different about this phone is that if it could have some IPX rating so I know that my sweaty hands won't eventually destroy the phone because my sweat seeped into one of the many ports on the phone, an expandable storage so I won't be limited to the storage configuration that I chose when buying the phone, and lastly, if it could have wireless charging. But other than these 3 personal nitpicks, I think Asus really nailed it and completely blew my mind away with this iteration of their ROG phone. There's just so much about this phone that it has to offer for my gaming experience that my iPhone 13 Pro and Samsung S21 Plus doesn't. Even after 5 months, I still feel like there's a bunch of features that this phone have to offer that I didn't fully utilize yet or have the chance to use yet, which is something that I cannot say about non-gaming phones I've used in the past. And if you ask me now if I would recommend a gaming phone, I would definitely say get one if you are a serious and competitive mobile gamer because it will likely blow your mind away if you never gamed with one before. And especially with the release of the Snapdragon 888 Plus ROG Phone 5S recently, hopefully you guys can find one at a discount. Alright, thank you guys as always for watching and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below and I'll try my best to answer all of them. And if you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button as it will greatly help this channel more than you know it, and I'll see you again in the next video.